What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Best Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Russler. When I first started doing this podcast, I decided I wanted to do it because I wanted to give people a chance to get to know me, my personality, my sense of humor, and I also wanted to use it as a way to shine a spotlight on people that I think deserve to be in it. And that is exactly the case this week. I'm sitting down with a comedian named Pearce, who's one of the funniest comedians I've ever met in my entire life. When I find out that I'm on a show with Tiel, I get excited unless I find out I have to follow him because he is so funny that he just absolutely destroys a crowd.
People expect things from me because I'm autistic. Somebody wanted me to count cards for them. I kept coming up with 52.
And when I find out that I have to go up after him, I have to start stretching, I start pacing. I get nervous. I was in the Marine Corps. I've been on 2 deployments, and following this man gives me more anxiety than any of those things. That's how funny he is, and he absolutely deserves the spotlight this week. I know you guys are going to enjoy this episode. We talk about his love of coffee. We get into his deep knowledge of Saturday Night Live, and we talk a little bit about The Simpsons. We just had a great time. I know you guys are going to enjoy the episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tiel Pearce. Coming in, wanting to do it, and watching the episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was telling somebody the other day that you told me you were keeping track of how many times I mentioned gramophone. You told me the other day, you were like, it's been like 4 episodes in a row you've mentioned it. And so now I'm like, I feel like I have to keep it going. So shout out Gramophone, best sandwich place in St. Louis. If you guys are looking for a sponsor, or I'm looking for a sponsor, if you're looking for someone who will plug your product, come talk to me. Yeah, so, no, thanks for doing it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I love the show.
Oh, thanks, man. We're figuring it out. It's nothing fancy yet. We're just trying to see what we can do, throwing things together, see what sticks. But how long have you been doing comedy for?
I started when I was 18, so 2011-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So you're, 13 years in? Something like that?
13 what years with an asterisk. Like I started 2011, November 2011. I went to the Westport Funny Bone, and it was the only club around at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was signing up for like a week or 2 and not getting on, and then I think it was either Tom Shelton or Tree Sanchez, they were like, hey, are you new? And I was like, yeah, put that down. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I put down it was my first time, and I got on right away.
Yeah, that's one of those little, you need somebody there who can teach you like the little tricks. Like, yeah, first time ever, you're going to get on stage because all clubs want that, so that way they can say like, well, he did his first ever set here, like in case you blow up, But man, Tree Sanchez, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever happened to Tree?
Oh, she's fine. She's doing last I saw her, she was doing a show at City Winery for Apotheosis.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think she's part of that part of that event.
City Winery, that place is really cool. I went there by mistake. I had a show last week, and for whatever reason, I don't know what was wrong with me, but I thought the guy who booked me said show at City Winery Friday, whatever. And I was like, cool. I got there. I was the first one there. I was just sitting in the green room by myself, and the owner came out and was like, "Are you Ronaldo?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Then I think you're in the wrong place." And I was like, "Well, this is City Winery, right?" And she's like, "Yes, but we have a show tonight, but it's a two-man show, and I looked at the pictures of the comedians, and you're not either one of them." And I was like, yeah, I definitely am in the wrong place. I am so sorry. You have a lovely club. Thank you very much for having me." And I just walked out. That was one of the more embarrassing moments of my life. I didn't realize you'd been doing it that long.
Yeah, I'd been doing it for a while, and then but my style has changed leaps and bounds since I started. Like when I started, I was mostly doing impressions, like celebrity impressions, and which was good, but I didn't really have like the writing to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So mostly I would just be quoting like movies or TV shows they were in, and maybe try to write around those quotes.
I was talking about this the other day with somebody that when people start comedy, they usually have one of two things. They either have stage presence or jokes, but they very rarely have both.
Right.
And so someone who starts with good stage presence usually doesn't have like the writing built up to where it needs to be. But then sometimes people start and they have really great jokes, but they don't know how to be on stage in front of people. And you're big into improv too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did that help you with? Do you think that helped with your stand-up at all, or is it just its own separate thing?
Absolutely, it helped. For context, it was 2014. I was doing stand-up. It was like most like open mics, maybe like a show here or there, but mostly it was just. I'd hit a wall creatively, and I need to figure out. I want to do stand up, but figure out what I really do on stage, and then I saw that I looked up the improv shop, and I found Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall was doing like a sketch workshop. I was like, oh, I love the Kids in the Hall. I'd love to do that workshop. Then I saw how much the workshop was. I'm like, I'm going to the showcase.
Yeah,
and that was like $5, so I was like, okay, I can go to that. And then I saw it was obviously amazing. And I was like, wow, I'd love to take classes here. And then someone there was like, we offer classes. I'm like, great. And
awesome.
I started level 1 almost immediately, and that's where I started getting to know Bobby J. Cox, Rafe Williams, Tina D-Ball, and Ella Fritz were in my class, in my improv class. They were on we graduated together actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, Bobby and Rafe they ran an open mic at the improv shop.
Mm-hmm.
It was Monday nights, I think.
Nights,
yeah. And I remember going up and being so nervous.
Yeah.
I don't know, just the improv shop. I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I just remember, and probably some of the worst bombs I've ever had have been in the improv shop, just because I was maybe a week or two into comedy, and I was just like, what are jokes? How do I do this? And I'd put my hand in my pocket and I'd look at my feet, and I was petrified of being on stage in front of people.
Yeah.
But I do miss the improv shop. Do they still do the open mic there?
Not anymore.
I didn't think so.
I think they're. I think they might start it up again. And obviously it wouldn't be Bobby and Rafe anymore because they're busy and
yeah.
busy headlining and
Busy headlining and doing Netflix as a joke and yeah. I mean, gosh. What? No, but yeah, congrats to them.
Yeah.
I just saw
love those
Rafe.
guys.
Rafe is going to L.A. for Netflix as a joke in May.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Rafe.
Shout out Rafe.
Yeah. Every time I
Rafe the
see
man.
a St. Louis guy make it to like that next level, I always feel like, I don't know if pride's the right word, but it's just like, yeah, one of us did it. Yay. Like
Yeah,
it's
like-
possible.
Yeah, it can happen to us.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's so weird because I don't know. I've seen some people that get mad. Like, you always hear about people getting opportunities and stuff. And you see some people that are like, well, it should be me doing, and you're like, what? But one of us is doing it. Like, it just
Yeah.
proves that it's possible. You know what I mean? Like, we should be happy. We should be
Yeah.
happy that they're getting to do it too.
That's kind of why I like the St. Louis scene, because for the most part we're all pretty supportive, like because we're not Chicago, we're not New York, we're not LA, we're not Austin. So we're like, oh, you got that? That's awesome. And like, cause we don't have the cutthroat thing, which I think helps and hurts. Maybe I honestly don't know.
I think by the time this comes out, this will be the third week in a row that I've had this conversation with people, and it's exactly what you just said. Is that St. Louis comedy scene is, the more I travel, the more grateful I am that I'm here, because you go to some of these other places and they're great, and you can, if you move to New York, you're going to get great at stand up because you can do 9 sets in 48 hours, or 24 hours or whatever. But there's also 10 times the amount of comedians there. They're all going for the exact same number of spots,
Right.
And same with Austin. And when we went to Austin last year, I was surprised at the number of mics that you'd sign up for. You'd be 75th on a list, and by the time they get to that portion of the list, they're like, all right, everybody gets 60 seconds. And it's like a 1-minute set. And it's like, okay, well, how do I get better? How do I build a longer set, when I'm having to fight for 60 seconds at a time? Like here, if you have a longer bit that you're trying to work out, all you would have to do is just, get to know the club. Once they know you, just pull someone aside and be like, hey, I've got an audition coming up, or I'm trying to work out this bit. Can I have like an extra minute? Is that okay? And chances are they'll be like, yeah, okay, all right, we'll give you an extra minute. Go do your thing. Go work it out. You know what I mean? If you're polite and you're professional about it, if you just run the light, then yeah, you're probably not gonna make the list for the next couple of weeks. But you gotta, I don't know, you gotta. I love St. Louis. I love the comics here. I love the comedy scene, and I think that it's super underrated. But that's just me.
We may be biased, but
Well, maybe a little bit. I don't know. We were talking about it was funny because we were talking about Anchorman in the car on the way over here.
Yeah.
And while you were talking, I took a sip of coffee and I was like, I just burned my tongue. It was the first thing that popped into my head, like right after we got done talking about that. Let's get into it a little bit. What's the best way to describe how you think? Kind of your artistic process of like how you come up with your material and things like that.
I like thinking like, okay, I'll think of something and then I'll be like, oh, that's been done.
Mm-hmm.
So then I think, okay, how can I, if it has been done, what else? How can I make it mine?
Exactly. How can you tweak it?
Tweak it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very much of a it comes from it's weird, but it comes from improv. There's a thing like when you do scenes, or like well, if that's true, what else is true?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it works that way with jokes too. Like if I have a premise, I'll be like, I'll have a punchline to it. I'm like, okay, what else is true in that premise? Like what have I set up? And if that's the case, then where can we go from there?
Exactly. Yeah. Like you're kind of doing the yes and approach of like, how can we expand it? How can we twist it?
Yeah.
But I really like your jokes, because I feel like you don't you don't purposefully do a lot of misdirection, but I feel like just the way that your mind works, I can't ever tell where your bits are going, and so the punchlines always catch me off guard.
Yeah.
Like there's some people that they start a joke and you can kind of piece it together, and you're like, okay, I bet I know where they're going with this. Oh, yep, that's where they were going with that. But yours are always, I've seen you before where you start a joke about LASIK and it ends with you getting the entire crowd to like kumbaya wave back and forth while you've twisted the words to a song, and rewritten it, and it's just like, I never thought that's how this joke was going to end, and I've said it multiple times, but following you on stage is so nerve-wracking, because it is just like, I don't know how to describe it, but I just you can absolutely just destroy a room, and you do it in rooms that everyone else has been bombing in, like at a platypus, or like, say you go to one of these open mics, it's late at night, there's 4 people in the room, they've watched 30 comics, they're tired, everyone's bombed, and then you go up and crush, and you're like, oh man, what am I doing wrong? I need to figure out. Tiel got him. Tiel got him to laugh, and I can't make him. It is, especially on big shows and big rooms like that. You're like, oh man, I gotta follow Tiel. Okay, all right. I've been in a green room before, like stretching and like, okay, I gotta reorder my jokes. All right, nope, this one's not good enough. He's not gonna be able to follow that. All right. I need to do this. I need to do that. So yeah. The reason I asked that is because I'm really impressed with some, like, your bits and the way you structure them and stuff like that. And I think it just, your sets always like flow. You do like a couple quick jokes to introduce yourself, and like, this is me, this is who I am, and then it gets the crowd quick, and then you get into like, some longer setups. But then they have these just like twists and turns in them, and it's interesting to me. It's very interesting to me. Like, How long have you been doing? You said since 13 years.
Yeah.
Is there a best set that you can remember doing?
It's a good question.
I know there's a lot. There's probably 10,000 in the last 13 years or whatever. But
yeah, I'd. Maybe one of my, I could think of 2. One of them was the finals at the Helium contest in 2022. I picked that one. I picked that one because one, because I placed in that one, and 2, because the crowd was in it for everybody, and everybody was killing, and it just felt like, okay, I'm second to last. I have to really.
That's hard to be second to last on the show, because usually by that point people are starting to get tired, and that can be, so the fact that you placed after that, like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it was interesting how that ranking came out, because like it was the last 3 people were Scott, James, me, Will O'Donnell, and then once we got the rankings, it went the opposite way. So Will was 1, I was 2, Scott was 3.
That's awesome.
It's so weird, but like I picked that one because it was just like the crowd was hot from start to finish, and everybody was on their A game, and I killed too hard. I don't mean I really don't mean that to brag. I genuinely, that's what happened. Like because I was doing my set and it was going going really well, and then like then like I think I went over. I went over by maybe like 2 or 3 seconds. Because I didn't time it for audience response. So if in my head I had it down to 10 minutes, even, but it was like 10:02, 10:03.
Well, first of all, you should brag about that because coming in second and crushing, and everyone knows that you crushed. You should be like, yeah, I maybe killed a little too hard. Like that should don't feel bad about saying that because
look, and I always look back at the tape because I was like, I always look back at the tape because it was just like oh man, the audience was so good it cost me first place.
That's good.
And so it was such a weird set, but it was such a weird time. But I picked that one because the crowd was hot from start to finish. The second one is probably opening up for Ella Fritz's YouTube special at the Improv Shop.
Oh yeah. I forgot she put that out. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I think. Yeah, it was last year, and it was so cool, and it's just again sold out crowd. People were into everything right away. Like it was a crowd that was there specifically to see the show, and they were there to support Ella and me to a lesser extent, much lesser extent. I'm just opening, but it was, but yeah, it was just such a fun time. I did like maybe like 10 minutes up top, and but it was like maybe the best, most consistent 10 minutes. And then I was like, okay, I set the crowd up. Easily the best hosting set I've had. So
that's awesome. Yeah, hosting's hard. Mm-hmm. Hosting's the hardest job. Like it is now. I'm skeptical to say that because I've never really headlined a professional show before, so I can't speak to that from experience. But to go out there when the crowd is cold, everybody's drinking, everybody's kind of having side conversations. They might be eating, still or something if the club serves food, and you have to break up those conversations. You have to make the announcements. You have to get everybody in the mindset of, oh, this is what we're here to see, and you have to get them energized and focused in just a very short amount of time to then hand it off to the next comic. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff going on.
A lot.
And when you don't realize this when you start comedy, but hosting, that's one of the most important jobs.
It really
and
is.
I've seen people who've said before that a show can make or break depending on the host.
Right.
If the host goes out and kind of doesn't do a great job, it can kind of trickle on to the other comedians. So if you went out there and you crushed, for 10 straight minutes, that's something that's something you have to learn how to do. It's not just a natural thing that's given,
You really do. And it's interesting with me because I with my energy level, I'm not the best host as in terms of like, hey, keep it up, keep it going for
Yeah.
the next comic. Like every time I do that, I just feel like it's they know I'm amping it up. Like they know I'm faking it. Like
That's yeah, you and I are very similar in that aspect because I'm also very low energy. I have a very like, not very expressive face,
Right.
and so you see some people that go out and they're like, "Who's ready for a show?" And everybody's
Yeah.
like, "Whoa!" like that. And I just kind of walk out and I'm like, "Hello," like I just like
Yeah.
I just don't have that natural
Me
like
neither.
bounce, to me. Like you were talking about Bobby J. Cox. He's very high energy,
Yeah, he's
very
good at that.
like he walks in a room and people notice because it's like, oh, he's fun. Like
Yeah.
he's just kind of like, hey guys, what's up? And
Yeah.
he's a great guy and he's so much fun to hang out with that people they gravitate to him and like fixate on him. He's got that stage presence.
Yeah.
But guys like you and me, when we walk out, we're just like holding the mic like, hello.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's almost like, and then but you just have to find ways to like recognize that, and I think if you that's where like self-deprecating jokes have worked for me, is to kind of like tell the crowd like, yes, I am aware that this is what I look like. I am aware that I'm supposed to get everybody in a good mood, but I look like I'm miserable. Like that's
Yeah.
just my face.
Yeah. And it took me forever to get to that because because like I said, when I started, I was doing like impressions and like
Mm-hmm.
doing all sorts of different voices, and then it got to a point after I graduated from the improv shop that I was like, oh, I need to be myself on stage too. But what is that?
Exactly.
And then it took so long to figure out the way I naturally am is funny.
Yes.
Like the fact that I just come out and I say thanks, and like you're performing at a show, like why how are you so dead?
I've seen you do that before, and I've seen you get laughs just from you walk out and everybody's clapping and then it stops and you just go thanks,
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
and people laugh and stuff like that. It is because it is funny. It is
Yeah, like
just your timing is very good with it.
Yeah, it really yeah. Then you mentioned the quick jokes earlier up top, like that came from. I know everybody shits on Zoom comedy, but like that really helped my comedy, like because I couldn't I got 3 minute sets on those sometimes, and so I couldn't really ramp up to anything. So I had to like really shorten jokes and like get to it quicker. And the booker at Flappers actually said like, let us know who you are in the first like 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you could do that, you're gonna have a good set probably, because like we got you right away, like so that's why I started coming up with like I'm autistic, which is smarter than you, and then I was like, oh, that's a great setup to like, okay, and then the yes and thing came in, like, okay, so that's true, like what else is true? And I'm like, well, I was reading when I was 2, like that was and not even kids books, newspapers, like and then they'd be like, okay, then what else is true? I'm like, well, other kindergarten was a real hoot, like and then that built up to okay, what else is true? Okay, other kids are learning the alphabet. I'm ranting about the flat tax, like, and then it's like, and then it's just building and building and building until finally I have like 3 minutes out of like a one-liner, you know.
And that's how it works. I mean, that was one thing I noticed. I mean, like I don't want to, I mean, some people are uncomfortable with compliments, but that is like a Dave Attell level of comedy where you take a one-liner and then you just expand on it, expand on it, expand on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're really good at.
Thank you.
Dave He's coming back. He'll be here very soon. He'll be at Helium.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
I am too. I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay, so let's get into it. You know, you are a huge coffee drinker.
I am.
How many cups of coffee do you think you drink a day?
At minimum 12.
At minimum, 12. Wow, that's okay. What is like the best brand of coffee? Do you like the chain stores like Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, Caribou Coffee, or are you like a Maxwell House, Folgers type person? Which one do you think is like the best? Where are you going for your coffee?
Good question. I go back and forth, because like a lot of the coffee I drink I drink at home.
Mm-hmm.
So like whatever we buy, that's what I'm drinking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be Starbucks one trip, but it could be Maxwell House on another trip, and as much coffee as I drink, I'm not really a coffee snob.
Yeah.
Like Eddie, I'm good with pretty much any coffee. But as far as the best, I'd have to say I like the simpler like Maxwell House, Folgers, like.
Does it matter to you like dark roast, light roast? There's always like a breakfast blends type stuff.
Yeah, I like dark roast. And it's interesting with me because it doesn't really. Like I said, it doesn't really matter much because like it doesn't hype me up,
Mm-hmm.
because we were talking earlier about do you take coffee with sugar and everything or black, and I'm like I usually go black, so that way, so then it's like okay, I'm judging purely on the coffee, and I like. And I like a good dark roast. I appreciate a little oomph.
Yeah, a little oomph to it, a little kick.
Okay.
Well, they always say once you go black, you don't go back. You know. I used to never drink coffee, and then once I started, staying up late doing editing, doing comedy, and sometimes like with comedians, it's weird. Is like your work day doesn't start till like 3 p.m.
Exactly.
And then it'll go till like 2 a.m. or whatever. And so I started drinking more and more coffee. And the only Caldi's, the St. Louis brand up here, they have a blend called Highland Grog.
Ooh.
And I think it's the best. I can drink that, no sugar, no creamer, no, just as is. I think that one's great. And then Community Coffee.
Ooh.
Have you had Community?
Yeah.
It's in the little red bag. Those also, that one as well. I don't need anything for that. I love the way it tastes, and I feel like it gives me a decent pick-me-up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't drink 12 cups a day. I feel like my heart would stop if I did that.
Yeah.
But I do drink, 3 or 4, and it doesn't ever give me. It's never as good as that first cup. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like coffee's kind of like heroin. It's never as good as the first time. You're never going to get that same jolt from it.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine 12 cups a day.
Even more. Even more. That's before I leave the house. Like, if a venue has coffee, you've seen me with a coffee cup.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'll drink like maybe 2 or 3 more cups. So technically, I drink at least 15 cups in a full day.
that's that's a lot of coffee. It's impressive. It's impressive. It was funny when we were at Helium that one time for the Cauldron show, and we were all in the green room hanging out, and other people are ordering. Oh, let me get a tequila and soda. Let me get a whiskey Coke. Let me get some beers. And you were like, coffee, please, coffee. And like every time she came around, your cup was empty, and you'd be like, one more, please, like that. And she was like, at one point, I think she was like, should I just bring the pot in or whatever? Like, that's kind of how my dad is with iced tea.
Yeah.
Biggest tip I've ever seen him leave at a restaurant was when a waitress came and just put the pitcher on the table and was like, I'll just leave this with you so you can refill.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, sweetheart, you just made my day. Like that. That's awesome. I was going to say, what's the best way you make your coffee? But you already said you like it black, no cream, no sugar. Nope. Although you did put a hint of caramel in there.
Yeah, I'm doing a podcast, so
yeah,
I have to,
it's a special
occasion.
You made me laugh really hard because you were like, I like black coffee, and then you saw they had the little like syrup pumps or whatever out there, and you go, well, you only live once, like that. And I was like, whoa, he's getting wild. Oh man.
I'm going for it. Only the best for the best.
There we go. Well, I'm glad that we had something special to kind of spice it up. Do you enjoy iced coffee at all, or is it just hot? Only
just hot. I've never been a fan of iced coffee, mostly because 9 times out of 10 they'll have milk or something in them, and I can't do that. Like like cold brew, I can kind of do more, but there's nothing like it's like if I'm drinking cold brew, it's like, okay, I'm just drinking a soda at this point, or like
with iced coffee, it's just like it's like a milkshake.
Yeah, just like I can't. It's like where's the comfort?
Yeah, where's the comfort?
Yeah, well, I mean, because there's nothing like just the feel of hot coffee, and like the smell hits you, and like the.
Up until I was about 30, I had this like weird hard set rule where I was like, food should be hot, drink should be cold.
Yeah. And
I did not ever want anything hot. I don't like soup.
Yeah.
I don't like hot tea. I don't like chili. I don't like any like broth or like warm liquids. Like I hated it.
Right.
But then once I got into coffee, I started to do iced coffee. And then I realized, like, I'm paying $8 for a cup full of ice.
Exactly.
And it's mostly milk. And I was like, this is not good, a good spend of money. Like, exactly. This is not, what am I doing? I'm a fool. And so that's when I switched to hot coffee. And especially on days like today when it's snowing, which is crazy. They said last night, they were like, oh, it's going to snow. And I'm like, well, it's Missouri. It's going to have a couple flurries, and then it's going to stop. And then I looked outside, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. That's like 6 inches. Whoops. I even told the headliner last night, he was like, oh, it's supposed to snow tomorrow. I hope my flight doesn't get canceled. I was like, no, man, it's Missouri. There's going to be like 2 sprinkles, and then it's going to be nothing, And then... sure enough, I woke up and I was like, oh, whoops. Took me an hour to get to your house just because of the roads, which would normally take, 15 minutes or whatever, it's just crazy.
Amazing. It's weird here. Like if you don't like the weather here, just wait. Like, because it's so inconsistent. Like, because yesterday, it was 60 degrees outside.
I took a picture yesterday while I was walking around downtown, and I could see the sun set kind of like behind the baseball stadium. And so I took a picture of it, and I was like, oh, man, that looks really pretty. And it was nice, and I had like a light hoodie on. And I was like, ooh, I'm getting a little warm. I was rolling the sleeves up, took my hood off.
Yeah.
And then today it's 30, 40 degrees colder and just blowing like big flurry snows. And I was like, what is happening? Yeah, it's crazy. St. Louis is so strange. Like, and next week, like tomorrow is supposed to be like 19 degrees.
Yeah.
And then by like next Tuesday, it's supposed to be 70. Like, what are we doing? Like, come on.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, just pick one.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're right in the middle of the country, though. Like, we're not far enough south to be considered like the South, like hot tropical climate all year round, but we're also not far enough north to be like blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
We just, every now and then we get like the perfect, it's like it's right at the edge of where both of those stop.
Yeah.
So
we get the worst of both worlds, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Not the best of both worlds, but the worst. Yeah,
the worst.
Tomorrow will be humid and mosquitoes, and then the next day will be ice and blowing winds. And you said you love Saturday Night Live, right?
I do.
You do. Who do you think was the best guest host for Saturday Night Live?
Ooh,
I know that's hard because there've been it's been on 40 years. So
yeah, going on 50.
Oh yeah, they almost are at 50. Huh?
Yeah, I'd probably say Steve Martin.
Oh yeah, he has the record, doesn't he, for the most hosts?
I think he's like. I think he's only second to Alec Baldwin.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Alec Baldwin hosted maybe like one or two more times more, but
I remember a skit where Steve Martin was like welcoming him into like the host club or whatever, and Steve Martin had like an 11 on his like. They had one of those like silk robes and pipes and stuff,
Yeah.
And then Alec Baldwin had a 12 on it, and Steve Martin like drowned him in a punch bowl or something something like that. Yeah.
I'd say Steve Martin because he hosted so many times that if you didn't catch the opening credits, you would think he was a cast member. Like, cause he hosted so much, and not only that, but he fit well with any cast he was with. Like in the 70s, he fit in with that cast. 80s fit in well with that cast. 90s fit in well with that cast. Like it's just, he's like, I think he's the only host to host at least once every decade.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
that's
so far. Yeah,
that's impressive in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But not to mention the fact that he's done it. He's continually done it over and over and over again. Steve Martin's one of those guys that I forget about. Like I forget his stand up.
Yeah.
And then somebody brings him up, and I'm like, oh yeah, he was one of the greatest stand ups ever.
And I love Steve Martin's stand up because it's like it's so silly and zany, yet if you really pay attention, you'll notice, he's actually a good joke writer too.
Yeah, a great joke writer.
Everybody remembers the arrow through the head and the banjo, but it's like no, he had some great jokes. One of my favorite jokes is the Steve Martin joke. It's like I'm happy because I finally have a goal. You need to have a goal in life. People usually set like these high goals you'll never reach. You have to set a series of smaller goals that slowly work your way up. So my goal now is to become the all-being master of time, space, and dimension. Then I want to go to Europe.
That is a great joke. Then I want to go to Europe.
I like that joke because it's like he sets the most impossible thing you could possibly do first.
Yes.
And then the easiest one you could do second.
It's such a great misdirect. Mm-hmm. It's such a great and the tag with it. I mean That's a great joke. You're right though, because I do think when I think of his stand up, I think about the arrow, I think about the banjo, I think about the Egyptian like King Tut thing,
yeah.
but yeah, he really did, and his movies were great. His movies are fantastic. The Jerk
is one of the best.
It's such a good, such a good movie. Just
it has to be one of the best intro lines.
I was born a poor black man.
When I saw that the first time, I'm like, "Where is this going?" And he says this with such conviction and
sincerity.
He means it. Like he was a poor black child.
Yeah. I loved that. I loved Bowfinger.
Bowfinger's underrated.
Bowfinger was great. I loved it because it was such a different side of Eddie Murphy that you got to see. Well, because, he plays two characters, but, he plays... the
movie star.
The movie star is like who you're used to seeing as Eddie Murphy, but then his, counterpart twin or whatever, he is like, I don't know if I've ever seen, he doesn't really do that much.
Yeah, nerdy kind of self...
And it's completely different than his nerdy, nutty professor self.
Yeah,
it's a
nerd. Yeah,
and that movie was like, oh man, Eddie Murphy's like a really good actor.
Yeah,
like he can commit to a role and commit to the bit.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy. Yeah, he was. That's another one where it's like some of his stand-up bits are great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so weird because he was only when Delirious came out, he was 22, 23.
Uh-huh.
But he was already the biggest stand-up star on the planet.
It's insane, and that's one of those things. I was talking about this the other day, but when you ask someone "Hey, who's your favorite comedian?" and they say, "Oh, Eddie Murphy," you're like, "Okay, I don't know if you haven't paid attention to comedy in the last 30 years, or you do pay attention and you realize how good he actually is."
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things. Cause when you ask somebody "Oh, who's your favorite comedian?" and they say Jerry Seinfeld, you're like, okay, you probably stopped watching comedy in the 90s.
Right.
You haven't really kept up with it. Not that he's not great, but also, there's a ton of comedians, you ask somebody oh, who's your favorite comedian? They say Mark Norman. You're like, okay, you pay attention to today's comedy.
Yeah.
You can kind of place oh, this is where you stopped listening or stopped paying attention to it. But Eddie Murphy's one of those guys that, like Steve Martin, kind of transcends decades, where it's oh, okay, you might listen to comedy every day and you realize how good Eddie Murphy is.
Right.
Or you stopped listening to comedy in 93.
Yeah.
And he was the last person you saw, I've had some people, I ask them oh, who's your favorite comedian? And they'll be like, Don Rickles. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he is good.
Yeah,
But when was the last? Okay, what was the last stand-up you saw? Was it Don Rickles? Because that was 40 years ago.
Exactly.
But yeah, oh man, I love Eddie Murphy. I love Steve Martin. He continues to put out. I mean, he's still. I don't know if this is true or not, but he said that he stopped doing stand-up because he sold too many tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, this isn't how stand-up's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Arenas are not designed for stand-up,
yeah.
which is crazy because now there's all kinds of comedians that are selling out arenas and stadiums all over the country. But the fact that he loved it in its, in the club form, in its purest form. Yeah. And I respect that because it's one thing for me to say it, be like, oh, comedy's not meant for stadiums. It's like, well, you're not doing stadiums. So how are you, you're talking about something you don't know. But for someone who's been there to then say, no, it's better here.
Yeah.
That's That's cool to me.
Yes.
That he respects the art form, and he respects that, like, for the audience, it's better if they can see me, you know, if they're right here next to me.
Yes. Steve Martin is like, it's amazing because like he stopped doing stand up because it's not supposed to be in arenas, and because he was doing so much, people knew his act.
Yeah.
Like they were waiting for things for him to do,
Right.
and it was like, well, I want to keep doing new stuff, but they're waiting for the banjo. They're waiting for excuse me. They're waiting for.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's such a great catchphrase, and it was just like I saw a special he did. He only did like 2 specials.
Uh-huh.
This last one was at the Universal Amphitheater. Like it was like an outdoor and the crowd was going so nuts for him. He couldn't even get jokes out because like everything he did got applause. Everything he did was he was killing before he even started talking. And when you reach that, it's like, where's the fun? Like, I can't do anything new because like
It's almost like a curse.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw Jim Gaffigan one time in concert, I saw one of his shows, and he did a full hour, and then he did Hot Pockets,
Right.
and you could tell. Not that I'm not saying anything bad about Jim. I'm just saying that you could kind of tell like he's tired.
Right.
Like he's like, okay, Hot Pocket, like that. Like not, and he still did. I mean, it was still great. Everybody loved it. I'm not talking bad, but I almost felt bad for him. Like he doesn't want to keep doing this, but
Right.
people feel disappointed if they didn't get to see him do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same with like Bert Kreischer and the Machine and stuff like that. Like, sometimes I think like, oh man, I'd love it if I had one of those bits that was just everyone loved, everyone knew, and then you see these guys doing it, and you're like, oh, maybe that's not what I want.
Yeah.
Maybe I want people to come and see my stand up because they're like excited to see something new. Like, and I get excited about new jokes,
Yeah.
like, do you have any jokes that you're like, it's a good joke, I'm going to keep doing it, but I'm kind of tired of it?
Yeah. I have a few of those. In fact, when I came up with the whole Zoom Zoom Kapow thing, like the quote unquote catchphrase, I was saying it, making fun of catchphrase comedy.
Yes.
Like I was like, okay, they have this thing, I'll have my thing, and it's clearly not as good as those other ones, but it's basically parody.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where it happened fairly quickly, where people were like, if I didn't say Zoom Zoom Kapow in a set, people were like, where was Zoom Zoom Kapow?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I created a monster.
Yeah, I get it. That is a good, because there are times where even I have been like, oh, you didn't do Zoom Zoom Kapow. Like, I wonder why. Yeah, and I guess I understand it, because the first time I heard you do it, I knew what you were doing.
Right.
Like, I knew that you were, you're not serious. This isn't actually your comedy catchphrase. But then it kind of became
my comedy catchphrase.
Yeah.
And that's the other way that the Zoom comedy kind of revitalized things, was because like the Zoom Zoom Kapow, to set it up, took like at least a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I only had like 3 minutes. So I was like, okay, I could either stick with Zoom Zoom Kapow and do maybe like 1 or 2 jokes, or not do it and do like 3 minutes of jokes. And it really kind of, and also I said it. Also I did Zoom Zoom Kapow. Now I only use it on Facebook, and that's purely because of I don't want people. I don't. I want my. I want my. If I tell a joke on Facebook, I want people to know it's mine.
Yeah. Right.
Because, and I do that because one time at the helium contest, like years ago, I was doing Zoom Zoom Kapow quite a lot in my set, and it was a good enough set, but then somebody, it was in the first round, somebody said Zoom Zoom Kapow after a joke. And the place lost their fucking minds. They were laughing, cheering, applauding, and 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 and, and Nathan Norton was hosting, and he was like, and he came up to me with the minute the dude said, he's like, "I'm gonna kick that dude's ass."
Yeah.
Like
I would have been. I was about to say.
I was so angry, and I was just like.
I would have hit him with your coffee cup.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020, but but it was like, and it was, and the worst part was that was the biggest pop he got his whole set. Was taking my catchphrase.
Oh man, I would have. If I was the host of that, I would have said something. I probably would have gone on stage and been like, "Guys, he just stole that joke. Don't laugh at that." Like,
yeah. Nathan did say to the guy afterwards, like, "What the fuck is your problem? Like, you're not supposed to do that anyway, but to do it in a contest, like deliberately take someone's thing, and."
Well, it's never okay. It would never be,
okay.
Like, oh man, that just annoys me. Is that person's probably not still doing comedy, are they?
I've never seen them again.
Good. Well, good.
And it's just like they were one of those contest comics that comes out. That comes out only during the contest. Well, but that was the first and last time I ever saw this guy. But I mean, I didn't move on anyway. But it was just.
That doesn't matter.
It's just a matter of like. It was just a matter of like. It's like sweeping the leg almost, like.
Yeah.
Kind of like. Yeah, it was such a weird. That was like the first time I was like, okay, maybe I need to back away from the thing because that's a thing I didn't know would happen, like maybe because it could become such a thing that so I just kind of stopped after that.
That's one of those. Speaking of contest comics, that of all they, if you want to try stand-up comedy, if you want to get into stand-up comedy, go for it.
Right.
It's very welcoming. We're all, gonna help you. We're all gonna like talk you through it. That's perfectly fine. But maybe don't pick your first time on stage ever as the comedy contest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you've got people that have been doing it 13 years, 15 years, like people that have put so much time and effort and, blood, sweat, tears into forming these jokes that if you show up and you bring 40 of your friends and they all vote for you,
Right.
and you move on to the second round, like you're going to be like, oh, maybe I'm a great comic. Nah, you stack the audience with your best friends. Good luck getting them to come out 100 more times.
Exactly.
Like anybody can get people to come out once.
Right.
But continually getting your friends and family to come support you, that's the hardest thing in the world. That's why I was telling you in the car, like I'm considering not signing up this year just because the only people I know in St. Louis are comedians. And that first round is all audience vote.
Right.
And so I usually show up, I go, you have a great set, And, some years you don't deserve to move on. Some years, you have a bad set, and that's perfectly fine. But sometimes you have a great set, but well, nobody's here to vote for me, so
Right.
I'm kind of just doing it for the video, or I'm kind of just, And it's like, but it is what it is. It's fine, but it's still, I do it because mostly the reason why I sign up for it is because it is fun. It is. Not very often in comedy do you get to do a show with all of your friends.
Right.
Especially like the further up you move, like when you start featuring and stuff, chances are you're not gonna be doing it. You probably don't know the headliner when you feature, and you may not know the host. So you kind of be alone. Or if you're a host, you may not know the feature and headliner, so you're kind of like, all right, I'm make new friends. But the comedy contest, there's 8 people on it, and all of them because you've been hanging out with them for the last 6, 10, 13, 15 years, and you're like, oh, this is fun. It's just kind of like a party, and, it's a good time. But I never have super high hopes of moving on to the next round,
Yeah, I there was a point where I entered so many contests and never got out, and I got moved past, and then I got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna go in and just fuck it, like, I'm just gonna do my best and just have a good set and enjoy the show.
Yeah,
because those preliminary rounds can be some of the best crowds because they're there to see comedy.
Yeah.
And but then of course the flip side of not giving a fuck is the minute I stopped giving a fuck, I started moving on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well now I have to give a fuck now. Like now I have to care because audience is one thing, but judges are another.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it was, I don't know, contests are a weird animal. That being said, I'm going to probably go in there again.
Yeah, I always say probably not going to sign up this year, and then I sign up as soon as they post, hey, submissions are out now. I'm like, well, I might as well, even if I don't move, well, why not,
Yeah.
And especially now that I know, I pretty much know everybody that works at Helium, and so when you walk in, it's like all your friends, and you're just like, oh, hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, and
pretty cool.
The only part of it that I hate, the part that I absolutely cannot stand, is at the end of every, round, they bring everybody out on stage, and then they read off who wins, and you can tell, like, sometimes if you're not going to win, and it's like, I don't want to stand here and, like, lose in front of everyone. Like, can't we just send the host out and he'd be like, all right, these people won, blah, blah, blah. And then thanks, good night, like. Yeah. I don't, like, that's the worst feeling in the world because it's like, it's not that I'm not happy for whoever does win. It's just, it's hard to just like hey, I was here too. Yeah, fake a smile. Okay. Like, you have to be happy for the other people that won, but also like you're just, you lost, so you're kind of sad. You're just like, okay. You do like the Queen wave, where you're just kind of like, hello, I didn't win. Who do you think is the best SNL cast member?
Ooh.
I know that's a hard one because there's probably just as many cast members as there have been hosts, but that's. You'd almost have to do it by decade,
Yeah. Yeah, I do it by decade. I'm going Phil Hartman.
Oh, that's weird. When I made that slide, I was thinking of Phil Hartman. I was trying to think of like, okay, who would I pick? And it was like Phil Hartman, Chris Rock, Chris Farley.
Yeah, Farley. Yeah.
You know, David Spade, Norm Macdonald,
Yeah.
like all of those came through. But Hartman was one of the ones that I was like, he was a pretty good one. Like he stands out, and he's somebody that I don't know much about him besides his time on SNL.
Yeah.
You know,
I pick him because he could do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Like if you needed a straight man in a sketch, Phil Hartman. If you needed someone to carry the sketch, Phil Hartman. If you needed an impression, Phil Hartman. If you needed a wacky character, Phil Hartman. Like he could do everything. Even be a straight man with no funny lines,
Mm-hmm.
and still get laughs just because he's that funny.
The straight man is like the most, probably one of the most important parts of a good sketch is having someone who can play the straight man.
Yeah.
Did he do the Frank Sinatra impression? Was that him? Yeah. His Frank Sinatra was so good.
So funny.
It was so funny. They said his daughter Nancy Sinatra showed Frank his impression, and they said even Frank was like, all right, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
and he hated everything.
Yeah, like like the Sinatra group, just telling Billy Idol, you don't scare me, kid. I got chunks of guys like you in my stool.
Yeah. What do you think is the best SNL skit?
Ooh.
The best or skit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that stand out to me.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
I don't know if you remember there's one, I think it was with Billy Crystal and like the Night Guards. And
him and Christopher Guest.
Yeah. And I loved it because he had like a wig on.
Yeah.
And at one point he just reaches over and just adjusts it. And you could see Billy Crystal trying so hard not to lose it. And he's like, hi, man, I'll see you later. They have to like end it because he's about to just explode with laughter. There was another one with, what was her name? She was on ER, Julianne Margulies, I think.
Yeah.
And she came over for dinner, and they had that family whose teeth was made out of chalk, so they couldn't chew their own food. So they would have to chew food and then drop it. Yeah, baby birds.
Baby bird.
Yeah. And at the end of it, he's like, I want Julie to feed it to me. And you can see them all just like that. It was such a fun. I love it. I love the sketches where you can see the cast trying so hard not to break.
Yeah, those are the best. A few come to mind. One of them being the first Matt Foley motivational speaker, Chris Farley.
Oh yeah.
Talk about trying not to break. Because everybody, the only one who didn't break was Phil Hartman.
That takes talent.
To be in a sketch with Chris Farley going at 12.
Yeah.
And David Spade's losing it.
David Spade was on the couch just like this.
Yeah, it's like everybody was everybody was losing it, and then even Farley was losing it because everybody else was losing it.
Yes.
And it was that table he broke.
Yeah,
that wasn't supposed to break.
I know. I remember hearing that story about how he just fell straight through it, and that's what really made Spade just like
whoa. Yeah, that one. That one I also like. There's one with Eddie Murphy where he's James Brown and he's getting in a hot tub.
Yeah.
And that's it. That is the whole sketch.
Yeah.
It's just too hot in the hot tub. Yeah,
That's such a great.
Yeah, it's so good because again, that's the whole sketch. It's just James Brown getting in a hot tub, and the band is playing like, should I get in the hot tub? Yeah, will the paper sweat? Yeah, should I get in the hot tub? Will the paper wet? Yeah, well. and even again with not breaking, Eddie Murphy was trying so hard not to lose it because you could tell he was like, how did this get on?
Yeah.
Like, this is killing so hard, and he was trying so hard not to laugh.
I love it because they said that like for certain sketches that when they do like the dress rehearsal, like Chris Farley would always come out and just kind of like deadpan his lines, and then when it was live, that's when he would really like dial it up to 12, like you said, and just in a van, and there's always like the cowbell sketch and stuff like that is. I mean, that's one of the ones where poor Jimmy Fallon couldn't even get any words out. He was just like, you can see him biting his hand trying not to laugh.
Man. Oh God! And then like people give Fallon shit for breaking in sketches, but you have to remember he is in a sketch with Will Ferrell.
Yeah,
and Will Ferrell sometimes goes out of his way to make people laugh.
Yeah, yeah. And he's notorious for not breaking. Like he's one of those guys that can just hold it,
Yeah, but if you notice in Cowbell, even he was losing that.
Yeah, even he was starting
to break. Yeah, and there's another sketch that's a bit more obscure. It's there's one where Jan Hooks is in like a diner waitress, and Alec Baldwin comes in, and he's like this macho, tough cowboy guy, and he's like, and then they're talking about, you can tell they're going back and forth, not trying to flirt, but like they're talking about the specials, like what kind of pie would you like for your breakfast special? I know the pie. It comes with the special. It's not on the menu. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? Are you saying I'm the type of woman who would offer you a slice of pie without knowing it? All I'm saying is pie is never free. And you can tell they're talking about sex. But and then the best part is Alec Baldwin storms out. He's like, you know something, honey? Don't give away your pie with breakfast. Makes you look cheap.
When I think about Alec Baldwin, I always think about the sweaty balls. Sweaty balls.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fun. That one is perfect, deadpan, serious, and you can see Molly Shannon is so good in that.
Yeah.
Like, just not. Was it Molly Shannon?
Yeah, Molly Shannon.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I was like,
Molly Shannon and Anna Gasteyer, yeah.
Okay. As soon as I said it, I was like, that might not be right. But that she's so good. Like the way like she takes the bite and then just very like, yes, I love the taste of the sweaty balls. Like that, like it's so perfect. It's so good. And the crowd is just losing it.
There's one more sketch that I really, really love. Nobody. Another obscure sketch. It's one of those 10-to-1 like sketches where it's clearly near the end of the show, so we put on the weird stuff. This sketch is so funny to me. It's Mike Myers is a bike messenger, and he's going around delivering things like, I am the bike messenger, And it's like, I deliver legal documents, and he's just talking to everybody. That it's like, everybody's going, we love you, bike messenger. And it's like, and he's just talking to everybody, and then finally he gets to Norm Macdonald, and Norm Macdonald's like, yeah, bike messenger, you know those people you're talking to, how are they hearing you? Would you be like way out of earshot at this point? It's like, yeah, you're probably right. And it's like, yeah, that's my point. How are you hearing me? This is ridiculous. And he's just fact checking everything in the sketch.
Norm was so great. He was so great. Oh, just, I mean, I made me, when I found out that he died, I was so sad.
It ripped me apart.
Him and Robin Williams.
Oh yeah,
those two. When I found out they died, it was such like a
gut punch.
Yeah, but I have to say that the way Norm went out by like not telling anybody he was sick, not doing anything, it's like that's such a great. To me, that's like that's a great comedic like bit. I mean, like not even a bit, but just like a. He realized, like, hey, I make people happy. That's my job. I'm not gonna make them sad. I'm not gonna. It's not a whatever. And then to just be gone like that it was like I don't know. I respect that.
Yeah,
I respect that so much.
Because he was such a comedian.
Yes.
That he's like, I don't want people feeling sorry for me. Like I don't want them to be sad when they come out. Like I just want them to laugh. Like they may see me like lose weight or something, but like
it makes me think when he did his final appearance on David Letterman and he was saying bye to David Letterman.
Yeah.
After he died, when you go back and watch it and you see he's kind of like he's getting emotional.
He's trying not to cry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it made me think like when I first watched it, I was like, oh, he's sad David's retiring, and then I'm like, then after he died, I'm like, I wonder if he's saying bye. Like I wonder if that's his way of saying bye.
Maybe because that was like the last stand-up appearance he did on TV.
Yeah.
Until like the Netflix special, of course, but.
And that, I mean, oh, that's such a gut punch or whatever. Oh man,
Norm Macdonald made me want to got me into SNL.
Mm-hmm.
And because I used to, as a kid, watch him on Weekend Update. Like I knew I wanted to be on SNL, but seeing him like be on Weekend Update and just be himself on Weekend Update. And get killed doing that.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, I want to be that guy. I don't know what he's doing, but I want to do that. And so Norm was like the first comic I saw live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because he's because I was sitting there with my mom and everything in the crowd, and I was like, I hope maybe I could beat Norm. And then the people sitting next to us like, well, he's at the bar, and I'm like, oh my God, I need something for him to sign.
Everybody get out of my way.
Yeah, and I got the back of a Bud Light advertisement, and I go up to him shaking like a leaf, just like,
mm-hmm.
This is my hero, and I'm like, Mr. McDonald, I hate to interrupt, I looked you on Saturday Night Live, can I have your autograph? He was like, he was so nice. He was like, yeah, sure, kid, what's your name? And I'm like, I tell him my name's Tiel. And he's like, Tiel, huh? What'll they come up with next?
That's so cool.
That's the best thing to say. And I was trying so hard not to laugh, but I do. But something inside me is a comic. I knew I was going to be a comic because the next thing I said was, I don't know what they'll come up with next. And then he's like, and it's like, yeah, great. He's like, yeah, great meeting you. And I thought he just signed, hey, Teal, thanks for coming, Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
No. He says, he writes, Teal, don't do crack.
Solid advice.
To this day, I've never done crack.
You better not. That's so great.
But the best part of that is I'd see Norm every time he came to town after that.
Uh-huh.
The last time I saw him was at the Lumiere Casino,
Uh-huh.
and I do the opener, Fred Stoller, and he's like, he's like, hey, Tiel, come backstage. I'm like, okay, and I come backstage. First thing Norm says to me is like, hey, Tiel, I saw a clip of your stand-up. You're funny.
Oh man. That's
I forget most of what happened after that. that was like, I was trying so hard not to like just dissolve in a puddle of tears.
you just thank you so much.
But I was like I gotta keep it together, and so he signed something for me, and then it's like we started telling like old jokes,
Yeah.
like because he loved jokes, and like it was just like, and then so when Norm died, it was like my hero was gone.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
really was like losing a friend for you because
Yeah.
you joked with him and met him and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's wow.
The big one.
That was oh man. It's not every day that you hear something that you remember for the rest of your life, you
Yeah,
know.
that's
So I
beautiful.
can only imagine when your hero's like, "Hey, you're funny." Like I would lose it,
Oh,
you know.
man. Oh man, it every time I tell that story, I choke up a bit. So
Yeah, I would too. I choked up a little bit just hearing it from you. As soon as you said it, I was like, "Oh, like you know." I get it. Well, that actually brings me to my last question I had for you was that was there what weekend update crew do you think was the best?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, because there have been so many different, you know, that now you have Michael Che and Colin Jost, you
Yeah,
know.
they're great.
I remember the ones that stick out to me were Jimmy Fallon and Tina Fey.
Yeah, they were good.
And then it went Tina Fey, Amy Poehler.
Right.
And then it like, you know, it always kind of like one leaves another one. And then, you know, like that they always kind of replace each other.
Yeah.
But Norm Macdonald, he was the original, wasn't he?
No, the first one was Chevy Chase.
That's right. On the very first episode, because they talked about a hotel that had like 17
Seven
murders.
murders.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. The very first
Yeah,
episode.
Chevy Chase was first. He actually co-created the sketch. Like
Yeah.
in fact, the first update, I think he wrote most of the jokes. But because he was also a writer on there. But no, Norm came along during the Sandler, Chris Farley, Spade, David Spade era. Norm's my favorite update anchor,
Mm-hmm.
but I think my favorite like crew of like just correspondence and everything, probably Dennis Miller.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't even think about him. That's
Yeah.
a good one. Yeah.
because I liked the crew he had with him because he originally held the record as the longest serving update anchor. He did it for like 6-7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like and like the people he had with him were like Al Franken, Phil Hartman, Dana Carvey, Jan Hooks, Laura Dunn, like, and then later on he had Farley and Sandler and David Spade too,
And Mike Myers
Mike
and all.
Myers,
I-
John Lovitz, yeah,
I was going to say that, I mean, we all know that, like, you know, sometimes SNL, it dips and then it kind of picks up and then it kind of dips again and stuff like that.
Right.
But I feel like Weekend Update is the one consistent thing that even in the years where SNL's like, they're not hitting as high as hard as they used to. Weekend Update is usually
pretty solid.
usually still pretty solid because they're like, I remember there's been several times where I've tuned it in and I'm like, all right, I didn't really like that one. I didn't really like that one. Oh, Weekend Update's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't really like that sketch. I don't really like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Weekend Update, I like it because I don't know. And I typically don't like jokes about current events.
Right.
But for whatever reason, they know
They're
how
good
to
at
do
it.
it.
They're
Yeah.
good at it. They're good at it. And I think I like Dennis Miller's update crew so much because not only the cast he was with, but like the writing staff. Like
Yeah.
during his era, there were writers like, again, Al Franken, but then also like Bob Odenkirk, Conan O'Brien.
That's right.
Like Greg Daniels, who co-created The Office.
Uh-huh.
Like some Simpsons, future Simpsons writers,
Uh-huh.
and like
I forgot how much Conan O'Brien has done, like in the comedy world, you know?
man.
Because Simpsons, South Park, he didn't write on South Park, but he's had some guest appearances, you know?
Yeah.
He's like one of the few celebrities that even does his own voice
Yeah.
on The Simpsons, you know?
Yeah.
Or the South Park, I mean. And
It's funny because like he did his own voice on The Simpsons.
oh, did he?
Yeah, like, and it was funny because it was like almost immediately after he left to do late night. Like a few months later, Bart was on late night with Conan O'Brien, and it was funny. It was funny. We talk about catchphrases. That was the one where Bart had his catchphrase. I didn't do it, and so everybody was just waiting for the catchphrase. Like I didn't do it. And then it's like Bart was trying to be serious and Conan, did you know that the rainforests are going out of? And then Conan's like, just do the line. and then it's like, great. He's like, I didn't do it. Yay! Great material. We'll be right back. and then Conan starts dancing, and Bart starts trying to dance, and then Conan's like, sit perfectly still. Only I may dance.
I bet Conan O'Brien had one of the best late night shows.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think.
man.
I always enjoyed
favorite.
watching him more than Leno, more than Letterman, more than, you know, like as the years go by and like more and more people kept showing up. Conan was the one that I would consistently go to
Me too.
because it was absurdly silly, but not over the top.
Yeah.
And he was just fun to watch interview people, you know? Like, I really enjoyed him.
I love Conan.
Yeah. Well, we're at like an hour and a half.
Okay.
So we'll pause there. Thanks so much for coming.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
hope you come back again.
Oh, I'd love to.
We'll do another one. Maybe get some more people in here and have a kind of like one of those wild multi-pods.
Yeah.
The last question I always ask everybody is, what's the best way to fix this podcast? If you have any suggestions, creative tips, anything at all, I'm all ears.
Best way to fix this podcast. I
Get a better host.
no, you're doing fine. These mics are very garish.
Okay. All right.
Like this is
Okay.
it's a lot. Like I feel like I'm at I feel like this is like what am I, Liberace? Why do I need a solid gold microphone?
That's a clip. I love it. Okay. All right.
Other than that, though, everything's solid.
Okay, good. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming, man.
No, absolutely,
yeah. Guys, thanks so much. Oh, sorry. Do you have a plug your social media or any shows coming up?
My socials are just my name, Tiel Pearce, Tiel Pearce. Find me on Facebook and stuff, like Instagram. My next shows, I'm going to be doing comedy at the Commons in St. Charles on the 24th. Student showcases at the Improv Shop on Thursday nights, and STL Tonight Live. Our second show is the Leap Day, February 29th at the Heavy Anchor. So come on by to see some sketches about Leap Day.
Yeah, guys, go check him out online. Go catch one of his shows. He's one of the top comedians in St. Louis. Just really funny. And yeah. So, all right. That's it for this week. I'll see you next week, everybody. Bye.